how many smiles bursting with pride for each other, for your children, for this life that you worked so hard to create together. So as these cords sit across your arms, their threads tell the tales of the many thousands of days that you've spent together. And as the cords go on, they look to the future, to the stories yet to be told. Through the words spoken today with such pure intention that you, your vows, your marriage is renewed. Seal it with a kiss. Because it's people who had already made that commitment once and then went on a journey and then now saying, and we continue that. The world looks different now, I still choose you and I still choose love.
Intuitively, I asked Hazel about baby Ottilie's arrival. Intuitively, I asked Hazel about baby Ottilie's arrival. I found myself drawn to Hazel's journey, a journey that reflects the intricate dance between love, renewal, and the threads that connect us all.
I love being in beautiful places and getting to do beautiful things and seeing guests laugh and cry and seeing the couples laugh and cry and experience something so profound that they chose to do.
Intuitively, I asked Hazel about baby Ottilie's arrival. Intuitively, I asked Hazel about baby Ottilie's arrival.
But I love him so much. I love how healthy all his green hairs are. See, he needed water because that went through immediately. So these are my, well, one of the first things I ever really learned to care for. I love my plants and I feel very proud of my plants. I feel like they're like one of my spiritual practices is keeping all of these plants alive and happy. And I have a relationship with these plants. Give me that baby. Give me that thing.
We can be here too. Cool.
She's screaming. Oh.
Are you ready to rock and roll? Yes? Good. I'm glad. I'm ready to rock and roll. You think it's gonna rain? Probably.
Yeah.
This is Glasgow.
There's meant to be a proper storm at some point.
Really?
With
What, today?
Maybe you should drive an umbrella with you.
What's that?
You should take an umbrella.
Yeah.
Maybe with you.
Oh yeah, I'll do that. Well, if it stops raining, I can wipe the seat.
I think it's funny that Mum's like, we're going to go see the other kids at the park as if there's going to be anyone else outside right now. what other kids at the park?
Huh?
Do you think we woke up running loud?
No,
Oh,
no, I don't think so.
Okay. Make yourselves at home, kids, is kind of the way. So yeah, my little jungle flat is it's great. It became like a massive part of my personality to have more houseplants than anyone else. There used to be more, and then some of them fall away over time. And we gave away quite a few because it reached the point where you just couldn't go anywhere in the flat without finding some plants. But now I feel like we've got a good number and they will have like their home, and they're all pretty well looked after, I would say. I'll wipe the table, do you know? Oh, well, that's very domestic. I know, that's about, only because you're here.
It's absolutely gorgeous, and then they had to sign the Islamic papers, and then we went on and did my part of the ceremony, and we had a wee chat afterwards, and he was so lovely. He was so lovely and very interested in interfaith.
What is that?
Okay, so talk to me about talking maths.
Have you got your funeral plan in place? Because if you haven't,
I actually don't, but I was thinking a lot about it. Because really until you have like a husband and a kid,
I know.
there's just no need.
No.
But now it's like, actually we probably do need a will. And do you have life insurance? Do I need life insurance?
Yes, you do. And or you take out a financial funeral plan,
Right.
so that the cost of the funeral's covered,
Is-
because
yeah.
that's the thing that so many people, this family whose someone has died, they just don't have any money, and,
Yeah.
and where on earth are they supposed to find all of a sudden about £3,000?
Funeral poverty.
Yeah.
So do you know, I've just read like in this book about funeral poverty, you know, and it's like people just there was an interesting story about someone whose husband had decided everything that he wanted but hadn't actually paid for it, and they of course were like, oh, we want to honour his wishes. Cost them like 10 grand, you know, and then they were really interested. She had to sell her house because she couldn't afford to, you know, live after that. And it's like, it's all very well having wishes,
I know,
but unless you're willing to also pay for that in advance, then you know you can really put people in difficult positions because they don't want to live with the guilt of not doing the thing. And of course, so much of Scotland is, you know, living in poverty anyway. So
I had never considered funeral poverty. I've only witnessed Islamic and Hindu funeral rites. And then I thought about the time my grandparents died and my relatives had to buy spots for their graves. And maybe the problem is more omnipresent than I thought.
funerals and rites of passage, but also does really incredible work with the Coffin Club and has also made something called Talking Mats, which I hope that you will tell us more about right now.
Well, I just happened to bring an example with me.
So prepared.
Talking Mats is a communication tool, and my background before I became a celebrant was in special education. So I'll just do a very, very quick kind of demonstration. So we have what we call the top scale, and the mat is always in front of the person who is called the thinker.
Right.
So if you haven't planned your funeral yet, Hazel, this could be a speedy way of doing it. So I'll just do a very, very quick kind of demonstration. So having your service live streamed, if you think maybe people can't go, what would you think of hearing that? There are 3 sets. There's the planning your funeral service, which you would do usually with a funeral director, but it all depends. Then there's another set which is the actual content of the service, which asks about hymns or prayers or live music or that kind of thing. And then for the eulogy, this asks what kind of things are important to you. So you then have a kind of structure that your celebrant or whoever can write your eulogy from.
This is amazing. And even like for me, who has never worked with like additional support needs or like even I think just for someone who is weak, you know, and who doesn't have the capacity to sit and have a chat, and it's so nice to have a visual symbol of how you feel, and like just to have all these options. Because even for me, who thinks about this stuff all the time, has never sat down to be like, where do I instinctively? I don't know if I would like. I didn't know I was going to put that there.
Why should anybody really be denied at least the opportunity to find out a bit more? And that's my kind of passion, to make sure that people are involved. And one of the reasons that it came up was that one of the services I did quite early on, was a gentleman who died, and his daughter had cerebral palsy and did have quite limited understanding, and her sister and her mum first of all didn't want to tell her that her dad had died because she would get so upset, and then they didn't want to tell her when the funeral was, and I was finding it really hard not to say I don't think, you know, because it's really not my place to do that. If I had had a resource to be able to say, well, this might help, then that conversation would have been easier. But wonderfully, she came to the service and I had a wee chat with her before we went in, so, you know, she knew who I was, and that was all great. And when it came to the committal, it was a crematorium where the curtains were closing, and she waved. And I just thought, if she hadn't come and had that chance to say goodbye to her dad, it's all unfinished. It's all, you know, and that was what really kind of drove me, you know, we should have something. I should have something. I can't be a celebrant and do funeral services and not know that there's, you know, something for everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, I'm so sorry.
Spraying. There you go. Look at that. I might take my jumper punch. It's a bit. Okay. Oh, very nice. Oh, you went to the Hidden Garden?
Hidden Gardens, whatever. Yeah.
I was thinking, and actually, I was going, maybe you can help me.
Yeah.
I was saying to the borrowers.
Yeah.
Like, I feel really sad that I don't know any plants well enough to like go to the park and know what she can and can't
Eat.
put in her mouth.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to stop her from putting everything in her
Yeah.
mouth when some things are
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
So I was
The love, beauty, and support that surrounds Hazel and her family, her plants, to me mirrors the very essence of the care that she gives and opted a life for as a minister.
shouldn't give buttercups
Yeah.
to eat at all.
Like mint is fine, right? Yeah, it was absolutely shocking down.
Well, your hair's not looking too well.
Work for you then in terms of time.
As long as I can get to the Botanics by 1.
That's what Hanukkah was. How do you get by with parking when you're doing a ceremony in the Botanics?
Well, this is my first ceremony in the Botanics, so I don't know the answer to that. But I think there might be some on-street parking, or if there's a parking lot nearby, we'll just pay. So I take whatever I'm given here, and then that translates into what I create in the ceremony, and I use as much or as many of their words as I can, and it's not about like how many of their individual words can I fit into the ceremony, but I want them to feel like it's theirs, that they helped to write it, that they are truly reflected in it. So if I see you know, a couple who talk about family and how important family is to them, that is going to come up a lot in the ceremony, and it might inspire me to ask them if they want to do another ceremony inside the ceremony to really talk about their family or to really honour their family. Some people, it's really about how the sacrifices that they've made for each other, and we might talk about that a little bit more in the ceremony. And they will often choose rituals like hand fastings or quakes or whatever it happens to be that they love the sound of, and then I will help them shape the way that we do that particular ritual inside of their marriage ceremony. But I also sometimes might say, these are the things that I see are really important to you.
Where's the ceremony?
Edinburgh in the Botanic Gardens, so I will do kind of final checks of that ceremony script and make sure, so that will have been written about a month ago. They will have checked that script and they would have said that they were happy with it. So this is not about changing the script, it's about making sure that I'm ready for tomorrow. So reading through it, finding those spelling or grammar mistakes that always happen to be in there, fixing it. And I write, it's worth saying that I write scripts as a speaker.
There's a bit of a, so usually I would have this done a month beforehand, but this couple is happy for it to be a surprise, so that gives me like a little bit more time to kind of write it. But I want to email them with all of the like, this is what's happening in this order, so I do need to like finish it. And once I do this driving course, I have no time. Just like surprisingly tired.
Yeah.
Most of my ceremonies end up, I go along with a basket of bundly goodness, and that is really so that it feels a bit more special on the day. It feels like I arrive and hopefully a bit of the magic arrives with me.
I hope that bag doesn't look too silly. Oh, it's cute. Oh. This is really like the only kind of ceremony I can come to on my own until I get my license. My life, it's so beautiful, it's just so special. I love it, I fell in love. I fell in love the second I think actually I came off the plane, which is less romantic. Difficult to put to sleep. Yeah, you're really tired.
So.
Hi,
No, nice to meet you.
Right, heard a lot. I'm gonna try.
Present myself.
Yeah.
Ever so slightly grumpy baby because she's hungry. It's dinner time, isn't it? It's dinner time in half an hour. It's dinner time in half an hour.
I don't think so. I don't think.
Oh God.
What are you thinking about? You thinking about the camera? Your toes. Investigate. Over it. Over it. Over the fun. Dad?
Yeah.
What delivery?
Intuitively, I asked Hazel about baby Ottilie's arrival.
My particular story is that I had a clear sense of what I thought her birth would be like, and I was very attached to her birth being a manifestation of who I am. So I had really pictured this very beautiful living room birth with candles and really gentle, and then I was met with a very, I'll try not to cry, but I might, a very, very difficult birth where I was in a very long, very, very painful labour, and I desperately wanted to stay at home. I didn't want to go to hospital, and I went to hospital and I screamed that place down for hours and hours and hours in a shared room. And at that point they said it's really a C-section or nothing, and I had never ever imagined a C-section being the outcome. Sorry.
Do you want me to stop?
I had this statement or this sentence vividly repeating in my mind, and it was, they cut open my womb, they cut open my womb, they cut open my womb. And it was really that sense of this incredibly sacred part of my body was cut open by strangers who almost certainly didn't have the same reverence or the same kind of spiritual perspective of the power of the womb, that's where all my hurt was at that point. They cut open my womb, they cut open my womb. We were incredibly unprepared, so we hadn't prepared a hospital bag, we hadn't prepared anything at all really. We hadn't prepared anything to make me more comfortable. There was a lot of discomfort, so I would say that that has informed my work when I think about people who have sick family members in hospital. I really did all of the things. I made it such a project to have this birth be this like ultimate experience in spirituality, which it very much wasn't. And actually my birth was a like hard reality of when life is really shit, and actually the outcome of that in the long term has been a deep humbling, and really before that I had definitely had a perspective of there is a right way to do it, and that's kind of the only way you can do it, and everything's like, that's how you become a magical family. And then it didn't happen for me, so I had to reassess what it means to have a magical family, because I didn't get to have that the initiation that I had hoped to have. You know, you're never the same beforehand as you are after. That is not defined solely by the birth experience, it's defined by the full journey of becoming a mother. So you don't, for me, I feel now that I don't just have to be changed in one specific way because of the birth I had. I'm changed every day by having a daughter. I'm changed every day by having a daughter that now has learned to crawl, who has feelings and things that make her laugh, and that changes me just as much as anything else. I started to feel like there was magic in it because I was able to really connect with other people on a much deeper level, and a deep appreciation for the many women who, and families more broadly than just women, who have experienced some trauma in becoming mothers and becoming a family. In some ways there's maybe something nice about starting from the bottom and the only way is up. Literally. So I have found I've been kind of cleansed with sage before ceremonies that I have been to. And that for me has always been such a beautiful experience of feeling like I'm being cleansed, but also there's and I believe when I one line that I remember so specifically from this book, or one kind of piece, was talking about the heart as a seed, and it's only when a seed breaks in its shell that a plant grows. So it was kind of this idea that it's really only when our heart breaks in grief that we allow ourselves to grow and grow into something beautiful. That really stayed with me. This vision, this really specific vision of our heart as a seed that breaks open to grow flowers, because that is what grief can be. I would say that becomes a new chapter of our lives. There is really the saying, or the kind of, there's a theory or a way of describing death, that we are not the people that we were before someone died. We literally will never be, I will never be the person that I was before when this person died. So when we are processing our grief, it's not actually about trying to become the person that we were before and trying to be exactly who that person was in all of their happiness. It's finding new happiness and new ways of living that could grow into something even more beautiful if we allow it. Same really as becoming a mum. I will never be the person I was before I had a baby. How beautiful that this was something that I experienced, and what does this new chapter look like, and how can I make the most of this new experience that I'm having. So it really is that recognition of the transition, understanding it as a transition. A death is something that isn't just the person that died, but it completely affects us and those people around them. But we are sort of told to do everything we can to not let it affect us too much, when actually it could be the catalyst for a whole new life, a whole new blossom.